Knesset Member Ohad Tal is an Israeli politician who serves as a member of Knesset for the Religious Zionist Party. He chairs the Knesset Committee for Public Enterprises and is a member of the coveted Security and Foreign Affairs Committee. Knesset Member Ohad Tal, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Yishai.
So yesterday was a tricky day here in Israel. I was at a funeral, and you were there as well, for the burial of Eliakim Shlomo Liebman. He was one of the heroes who fought to defend the Jews on October 7th at the Nova Festival. So that was one thing, which was the funeral. Then we heard news that soldiers had been killed at the Erez crossing near the Gaza border. And turned out that it was 3 soldiers who were killed and others were injured. And then we heard this morning that there was an attack on the north and more rockets. And I don't even can't keep up with how people were hurt. I think it was actually unmanned flying vehicles. People are getting hurt all the time. We're fighting a war. It's a war that's coming from all sides. It's coming from Iran. It's coming from Gaza. It's coming from the north. And yet it doesn't feel like we're at a total war. In fact, Israel has lessened some of its reserves in the field, and it just seems like we're what they called in World War II the phony war. Like we're in the middle of a kind of a slow war, but the attacks are everywhere. So I wanted to ask you, what's going on? Are we fighting this war? Is this war going to get bigger? Are we looking towards a bigger conflict in the summer? How should we prepare ourselves? Should people be buying tickets to fly to Israel? Should I be buying tickets to fly to America, or are we having a war in the summer? What's the deal?
You're counting on having flights to America. That's optimism. That's a definition for optimism these days. Yishai, listen, you're absolutely right. I mean, you said that, it's a tricky day. It was a tricky day yesterday, but to be honest, I think we are in tricky days in the past 7 months. Maybe we can actually say that we are in tricky days in the past 76 years, actually. But you're right. Something of significance happened on October 7th, which I think, we don't like to talk about it too much, but I believe that the truth is that what happened on October 7th and ever since is not just that we had an attack from Hamas, who killed and butchered 1,200 people and kidnapped 250 people. It's much, much more than that. Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, succeeded to do on October 7th something that all Arab armies tried to do for 76 years and failed. He succeeded to prove everybody in the Middle East that Israel is vulnerable, that everybody thought that we have the best intelligence in the world and we have the best defense systems in the world. And he proved that couple of thousands of Gazans on motorbikes and trucks and bicycles can penetrate everything and can butcher, rape, beheading, all these atrocities he can do with passion, with believing an idea. And in the Middle East, the second you are proven weak, everybody comes and they all want to come and grab a bite. So I believe we are, again, not just fighting Hamas. We are actually fighting for our existence. And we've seen what happened 3 weeks ago when Iran, for the first time, decided to launch direct attack on Israel. Direct, not through proxies as they usually do. I mean, we all know that Iran is the biggest sponsor of Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen and of course Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza and in Judea and Samaria. But no, and they always use their proxies. And for the first time, they decided to directly attack Israel. I believe the reason is because they feel that Israel is weak. That's the reason. And that's the situation. We are in a very, very sensitive, delicate situation. We are fighting 7 fronts right now. It's not just Gaza. As you've said, it's Gaza, it's Judea and Samaria, it's Lebanon, it's Syria, it's Iran, it's the Houthis. We are fighting 7 fronts as we speak. So you're right. It's also, we have to try and balance everything. So now we a little bit slow down in Gaza. Which if you ask me, I believe that's a big mistake. But we'll put that aside. I'm sure we will talk about it later on. But we are fighting in seven fronts. We are fighting for our existence. That's the situation. That's the reality.
So, I mean, it kind of brings back to the actually to the technical question that I asked, which is like, are we really fighting with full throttle? And there's just a sense, and you hear this from soldiers, you hear this from Jews in America. I've got a Texan doctor writing to me all the time. He's like, "Why aren't you guys fighting with your hands tied behind your back?" You get that. You hear it from soldiers as well.
Yeah.
There's a frustration out there, and by the way, that frustration also comes from our allies. May they be in Europe, in Eastern Europe. They could be Arabs. They could be Arabs that live under the Palestinian Authority, who tell me all the time, like, "Why are you guys not smashing the bad guys?" Wasn't October 7th an opportunity to do what they call here in Israel "balabait ishtageh"? You flipped out. You took care of business. No more Mr. Nice Guy. You went into it and you took care of business, and you got rid of not only the Hamas but also the jihad in general, which comes in many forms. So I guess I'm throwing that question just one more time back at you, which is, okay, we're fighting for existence, but why aren't we giving it all? Why are we not dismantling the organizations that want to dismantle us?
Yeah. By the way, not just frustration from here from Israel. I can tell you that I'm in direct contact with top people in other countries here in the Middle East, which telling us, why aren't you doing completing the job? Why aren't you destroying Hamas? That's the purpose. I mean, and I'm talking about Arab countries here in the Middle East who that some people talking about all kind of deals with normalization with the Saudis and there are preconditions about a Palestinian state. I can promise you, it's not really coming from the Saudis. And but we will talk about that later on. I will answer your question. I always say that the biggest challenge we have in this generation is not about how to fight wars. That's not the challenge. The biggest challenge is identity. I think that if you'll give me like 3 minutes to talk about it, I mean, for 2,000 years, the biggest challenge of the Jewish people was to survive. That was the biggest challenge. It wasn't about identity, because whether we wanted to whether we liked it or not, we knew exactly who we are. Everybody around us showed us, you are Jewish. This is who you are, whether you like it or not. About 76 years ago, when the biggest miracles of all happened, and we established the state of Israel, we were very busy in the past 76 years with forming our physical existence. But in the past 30 years or so, something new happened. For the first time in 2,000 years, a Jewish kid wakes up in the morning and he's not afraid whether somebody's going to kill him. It's not his biggest fear. He's much more busy with using these kind of machines on TikTok and Instagram and Minecraft and whatever it is, and he has a lot of time. And I think that for the first time in 2,000 years, we've started to ask ourselves, just a second, who we are, why we are here. What does it even mean to be a Jewish state in 2024? What does it mean? And it's a question we haven't asked ourselves for 2,000 years. So it's a new question for us. And I think that we haven't gave a good answer yet. We haven't got a good answer for these questions. And by the way, take every political and social debate in Israel in the past 30 years. What is it really about? If we're debating whether to have a peace with the Palestinians, yes or no, to give up some parts of our land to the Palestinians, yes or no, judicial reform, yes or no, Bibi, yes or no, all these questions, what is it really about? I mean, go and ask all these people who were demonstrating passionately in the past year and a half in favor or against the judicial reform. Ask them, why electing the judges this way or another, that's the end or the beginning of democracy? None of them, or you know what, 99% would not know to give you an answer. So how could it be? How can you fight so passionately about something you don't even know to explain? How could it be? Because we're not really fighting about judicial reform. We're fighting about what is the identity of this country. And we have to believe that we have the right for this land. We call this war Charavot Barzel, right?
Shores of
Iron,
steel,
swords of
blaze of
iron.
steel,
Yeah,
blaze of iron.
it,
Yeah,
basically, this name, it doesn't mean anything, right?
right.
The Palestinians, they call this war Al-Aqsa flood. You can learn from that that they know exactly what they're fighting about, but we are still confused. And this is why we're allowing other countries to dictate our moves. This is why we're allowing other countries to tell us if we have rights on Gaza, yes or no. If after the most horrific massacre since the Holocaust, and we are in the middle of the day that we mark the day of remembering the Holocaust, we have to ask ourselves if we have the right to fight back. Really? I mean, look at what happened. President Biden, the first thing he does after the unprecedented attack of Iran against Israel is to call Prime Minister Netanyahu and tell him that America will not support Israel fighting back to Iran. Does that make any sense? And we accept it as if it's normal. No, it's not normal. We have the rights for this land. The people of Israel came back to their homeland after 2,000 years. That's the truth. And this is what we need to educate our own people to understand, to realize who we are. And before we will really do that, it will be much, much harder for us to actually win the wars we're fighting.
And by the way, Knesset Member Ohad Tal, yesterday's Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day ceremony was different than other years. My kids told me as well. It was more geared to be inspirational. It was less about the death and the destruction, but it was more about I came to the shores of Israel, I walked to the shores of Israel, I swam to the shores of Israel, I made it from Sarajevo to the land of Israel somehow. I became an army soldier, then an officer. I have great grandkids today serving in the army, and they said it over and over again, example after example, to kind of inspire us in this moment of darkness, of challenges around the world. I thought it was pretty moving. I thought it was pretty the national ceremony, and it speaks to what you were talking about, which is identity. There's a kind of simple identity, which is Israel's supposed to be the place of defense, and so we have every right to defend ourselves. I think there's a more sophisticated identity, but anyway, the most basic. Israel's here to defend us, and we're home. And this is our language. This is our land. It was on display yesterday. And this leads me to another question to you. You talked about 7 different fronts. You talked about identity. You talked about the right to fight for this land. There's a whole other front right now, which is not on this land at all. It's on American campus. It's in American Congress. It's out there besmirching our good name, Israel's good name, but also making Jews feel uncomfortable in the United States and in other places like England. My question to you is like this. First thing, what's their future, you think? What are they looking forward to? Defense and defending their rights to go to schools like Columbia? Or walk out of Columbia and say, I don't need you, and I'm moving down south to Florida? Or I don't need this, and I'm moving to Israel? Like, what is the correct outcome? What are we thinking is the outcome of the war that has been foisted upon us, put upon us from, and now we know Qatar, Iran, and others are funding this anti-Israel campus effort, and really a change in the atmosphere of America. Where's that whole war going, you think?
First of all, I don't think it's just a war of Israel. I think it's a war against Western civilization. I think people has to realize it. When Qatar is funding anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, it's not just anti-Israel. It's anti-Jewish. It's anti-West. But when they funding this whole charades in campuses, they're trying to achieve the destruction of the Western civilization. Also here, people has to understand that when we're fighting Hamas, we're not just fighting Hamas. We are fighting the war of the free world against radical Islamists who are trying to destroy the free world, who are against everything which is sacred to all of us. And Iran, they're chanting in Iran every day, death to Israel, death to America. They call us the little Satan, but they call America the big Satan. And when they're sponsoring all these riots in campuses, burning American flags in campuses, dressing George Washington statues with Palestinian flags, shouting Sharia in America. It's not just anti-Israel. I mean, thinking that it's just anti-Semitic or it's just anti-Israel, that's fooling ourselves. No, we have to wake up and realize what is happening. Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs said once that what starts with the Jews rarely ends with the Jews. Right. So also, I'm saying that I think also for the Jews in America and in the UK, I mean, so you can run from London or you can run from New York and hide in Florida, but I mean, don't think that will solve the problem, because who would imagine just a couple of years ago that this is what we will see on the streets of London and New York and Washington D.C. But it's happening. So as much as you will run, that will not change the reality. So now the time has come for us to realize what is the reality and stand up and fight back. And again, I'm saying all of the Western civilization has to wake up and realize the threat. People always asking me, how could it be? How could it be that in October 7th, Israel was so surprised about the attack from Gaza? How could that be? And the truth is, we didn't have lack of information. We had all information. Our intelligence did the job. They knew exactly what the plans of Hamas are. But what was the problem? The problem wasn't lack of information. The problem was lack of understanding. We didn't want to believe that our enemies actually they mean what they say. That when they say that they want to destroy us and they want to kill us, this is what they want to do. We wanted to believe, that if we will give them pieces of our land, if we will improve their economy, then they would abandon their desire to destroy us. Well, it doesn't work this way. It doesn't work this way. And so I think also Western civilization needs to wake up and realize the threat and realize that this is a common battle. We have to fight together.
Okay, but all right. What you just said now is fair, and I agree with you. But there's a difference now. You could have said that 15 years ago, 10 years ago, and that would have been a good answer. But the problem is today, everybody knows that the Biden administration is the supporter of Iran. They are the campus, the American, it's not just the jihadists, the American professors are on the side of this thing. The university is taking sides of this thing. So I don't think it's totally fair to be like, okay, like, look, it's a world of jihadism and radical Islamicism versus Israel and America. You guys are together. This is one side, this is the other side. No, like that what's happening right now is a sense that and then you have people on the American right, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, etc., Alex Jones. People are saying, and this is my friend Jeremy Gimpel pointed out to me, which is true, which is like people on the American right are starting to distance themselves. And I know that you're also concerned about the young American evangelicals, Christians. They're not so much on our side anymore. There's a great loss of connectivity to the story of Israel. So the story of Jews in America is broader now than just jihadism, which of course is a big trigger. But there's something else going on here, no?
I fully agree with you. I think what you've just said only add to what I said before, because you're right. I think this is what I said. We have to wake up and realize the threat. We have to realize the reality, even though just as much as here in Israel, we didn't want to realize the threat and we wanted to believe all kind of fantasies. I think this is what is happening also in America. Yes, and of course, we do have a problem with what is happening in the Biden administration, because again, if what's important to the President Biden is to call Prime Minister Netanyahu after the attack against Israel from Iran to tell him that you will not back up Israel, that's not standing with Israel. That's for sure. If when we see the rise of anti-Semitism in college campuses all across America, and instead of sending police forces and army forces to fight them, President Biden is more concerned with sanctioning military units in the Israeli army and people just like myself who lives in Judea and Samaria, to sanctioning people like people who live in Judea and Samaria. This is what he cares about. Then this is not standing with Israel. That's for sure. When senators in America, senior senators talking about the need to make political change in Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East, that's not standing with Israel. When the vice president talks about not selling arms to Israel when we are in a war for our existence, that's not supporting Israel. When the administration decides not to veto the scandalous decision of the UN Security Council to force ceasefire in Israel without demanding the return of our hostages back, and that Hamas will lay down its arms, that's not supporting Israel. And I can give you so many more examples. So of course, yes, we do have a serious problem with the administration. But what I'm saying, that it's not just Israel problem. I'm saying it's also a problem for America. Because when the administration behave this way, they send a message to radical fundamentalist Islamists all over the world, that the path of terror, it's the right path. If you'll use terror, you'll get whatever you want, because the West is so weak and so doesn't want to realize what is happening that he will give you everything. And they're saying it, and now we have to believe it. When they say death to America, listen to what they're saying. So Americans has to wake up. The young generation of Christians, evangelical in America, has to wake up and realize what is happening. People who wants America to be strong as it used to be needs to wake up and see what is happening here. China is rising, and Iran and North Korea and Russia, they're all rising. And America not backing their allies in the Middle East, they're weakening. America is not fighting back against all these radical Islamists joining together with extreme left liberalism, woke movement, which basically loses every sense of connection to reality, joining forces. And it's such a joke, because radical Islamists, the first people that they will butcher will be those I don't even know how to call them anymore, But
right, the LGBT community, all that.
They'll be the first. All these liberals will be the first to be butchered by the Islamists they're trying to protect now. So yes, this is what I'm saying. I think all Western civilization has to wake up.
Okay. Time is running out for you. I don't mean to say on this program, not in your political life, and we wish you continued success here in the land and in the leadership position. You've been flying around the world. You're one of the Knesset's English speakers, and one of the people who really connects to foreign powers and people who love Israel around the world. You've recently been to Sweden. You've been to Hungary recently at CPAC. Israelis a lot of times it's ironic because Israelis travel around the world, and yet they have a provincial attitude towards the world. They really don't understand a lot of the world, and they oftentimes think that if France and England are against us, then the whole world is against us. Do we have allies out there?
Sure. I think that today more and more people realize, even this is something for me I learned in the past year, that we have a lot of friends in the world, and we are basically conservative people, and movements all across the world are fighting for the same values. I've been to so many countries. Of course, to America I've been so many times in the past year, and as you've said, in Sweden and in Hungary and in other countries, and I see the same fight for the same values. We are fighting for our right to say that yes, family, this is the core, the basic fundamental of society. And yeah, we want to protect family, so we want to protect family values. We want to fight for our right to maintain our religious identity and our national identity without demonization. I mean, the left, they're expert in making conservatives all across the world look like lunatics, crazy extremists. If you're fighting for family values, so they will call you homophobe. And if you're fighting for religious values, they'll tell you're extremist messianic. And if you're fighting for being proud of your nationality, they'll call you nationalist. So it's not just happening in Israel.
Fascist. They'll call you fascist.
Fascist,
Ultra
exactly.
nationalist, fascist. All those words.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's not just in Israel, and it's not just in America, and it's not just in Hungarians, it's not just in Poland, it's not just in Latin America, and it's all over the world. So when I spoke before, it brings us basically back to what we've said at the beginning, that the biggest challenge of our generation is identity. Yes, it's to be proud of who we are, is to fight for our values, is to be proud of them, is to know that we are not just a minority. We are the majority, the vast majority, and we have allies all over the world. In all the Western civilization fight, we have the same fight, and we have to join forces. That's why I'm saying I always I go to a lot of meetings with Christians, because I believe that this is how we can actually win this war. Only if we will join forces, if we will fight together for in this great battle, because this is the biggest challenge.
Okay, Knesset Member Ohad Tal. I'm finishing off very quickly with you. You
Sure.
sit on the Security and Foreign Affairs Committee, really one of the most important committees in the Knesset. I'm just going to throw out a few words. You just respond to them the way you see it.
Okay.
Aliyah. Where's that right now? Aliyah.
I guess that we will see
Immigration to Israel,
numbers
that is.
numbers growing significantly in the next couple of years. This is what I expect.
Gaza.
Should be the part of the Jewish state all over again.
Lebanon.
Poor people suffering from the hands of terrorist organization who took control of them, and if we will fight them and destroy them, we will not just save Israel, we will save Lebanon just as much.
The West Bank.
What? I don't know what you mean. I know Judea and Samaria. I haven't heard of the term Judea, the West Bank,
Judea and Samaria, then.
the ancestral homeland of the Jewish people.
Iranian people.
Iranian people are suffering from the Ayatollahs, and hopefully, here also, Israel will do what needs to be done, with or without the support of our allies. We need to do what needs to be done, and that's to get rid of the Ayatollahs. That will save the Iranian people, that will save the Middle East, that will save the world.
Temple Mount in Jerusalem.
The core, the heart of the Jewish people of the land of Israel. For 2,000 years, we were praying to go back to Zion. Zion is the name of Temple Mount. We are Zionists because of Zion, because of Temple Mount. And again, if we will go back to our roots, to our identity, we will understand our connection to the holiest place in the world.
Last
Which,
one.
by the way, just one more word. When we're fighting for the land of Israel, when we're fighting for Temple Mount, we're not just fighting for ourselves. The vision of the people of Israel is to make those places, to make Temple Mount the house of prayers for all nations. We are here not just to serve ourselves. We are here to serve God and to serve humanity.
Last one. Abraham Accords.
I think it's the right step forward, bringing more and more of moderate countries in the region to understand that Israel is not part of the problem, but part of the solution.
Knesset Member Ohad Tal sits on the Security and Foreign Affairs Committee and also chairs the Enterprise Committee. What is that? Business Enterprise? What's that called?
Public Enterprise Committee. Yes, it's a more financial issues regarding reduced regulation and increased competition. Which again, for me, it's the same fight for values: less control, more freedom for people to be who they really are.
Thank you very much for your time from the Knesset Member Ohad Tal. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Yishai.
All right, folks, you are listening to the Yishai Fleischer Show, broadcasting live here from Judea. God bless you wherever you are. Stay tuned, stay connected. Check out our channel, Yishai Fleischer TV. Lots more good stuff. Subscribe, hit that bell, and God bless you wherever you are. And shalom.